Oh, exes, how awful you have been. Alright, time for a new Storytime Tuesday. This week, I will tell you about the first serious relationship I was ever in. It was awful. I really truly am just a very stupid person when it comes to relationships, or at least I used to be. Okay, so I went away to an out-of-state college, and I met some amazing people. I had some great experiences while I was there. I just chose to date the wrong person. And it really was not a good thing to have done. I had just turned 18, like literally not even a month prior to leaving to go and move into the dorms at the college I was going to. So I am very, very young. And I know that some of you are like, 18's not young. Compared to how old I am now, 18 is very young. So I moved in, and the dorms that I lived in were really, really nice. It was more like having an apartment. We had a living room, and then there were 4 bedrooms off of the living room, and there were supposed to be 2 girls in each room. I was lucky enough that I did not end up with a roommate. So it was more like an apartment. It was very, very nice. They did a very good job matching us up to live together. We all got along great. We did a whole lot of stuff together. When I met this particular ex, I was actually with my roommates. And my best friend will tell you that right away she did not think this was a good idea. They hated each other. But before they even had a chance to get to know each other enough to hate each other, she has flat out told me that she never thought it was a good idea for me to get involved with this guy. So I had met him outside in like the courtyard area. Him and his friends were out there playing frisbee, and my friends and I were super social butterflies. And I know it's kind of funny because I've mentioned that I have social anxiety problems. But if I am with the right group of people, it is like complete polar opposite. It was a group of freshmen, and within the first 4 months, I'm pretty sure almost everybody that went to school there knew who we were. So him and his friends were outside playing frisbee, and, you know, me and my friends were like, hey, frisbee, cool, fun, and, you know, we joined them. So that's how I initially met him. But, like, we didn't exchange any kind of information or anything like that, you know. His friends and him went one way, and we went another way, and that was it. A couple weeks later, there happened to be, like, a dance of some sort going on. And my friends and I were like, oh yes, we're going. It'll be so much fun. So we all go down there, and we're all prepared to have a great time, and nobody's dancing. And we're like, oh no. No, this cannot be. So we start going around and literally pulling people out onto the dance floor. And we're like, this is a dance. You better be dancing. Well, this guy just happened to be there with his friends. I pulled them out on the dance floor and was dancing with them. And I'm a terrible dancer. Let me just say that. I'm awful dancer. And that was how him and I really kind of started to hit it off. After that, you know, we started spending time together. We started dating. Started doing some slightly more adult activities together. He was a good person at first. Clearly my best friend saw something I didn't, though. Because, like I said, she, right off the bat, it was like, no, I don't agree with this. Fun story, though, that same night at that dance, she met the guy she ended up dating. We, like, started dating these guys literally days apart from one another, and it was kind of funny. I also didn't like her boyfriend at the time, so it was a two-way street. But she clearly saw something I didn't right from the get-go, because right away she was like, no, I don't think you should date this guy. I don't think this is a good idea. And me being stubborn as can be sometimes, I was like, nah, you don't know him the way I do. You don't talk to him that often and stuff. I think I should probably listen to her a little bit better. After a few months of dating, he very quickly started to change how he behaved toward me. He started getting very controlling. And when I say controlling, I mean like he wasn't happy if I was in class and he wasn't. Your favorite stupid girl here started skipping class. It started out as like one here and there, and then it started to get more frequent, and just because he wanted me to be available for him when he was free, not when we were both free. And then we would argue, which it's normal for couples to argue, but how badly it would escalate was bad. Like, he would have me pinned up against a wall in my face screaming at me. Bad. And this is only like 3-4 months in. And for whatever reason, stupid here is like, I will stay with this man. Just, you know, young and stupid. So then he brings me back to his hometown for like a long weekend or something like that, because it's like a full day drive to go for my parents to come get me and bring me back home for like a long weekend, or even just for like a week. If it wasn't like a holiday going on, it made no sense for them to come up and get me. And so he brought me home for like a long weekend of some sort. And, you know, I met his family. I liked his sister a lot. I really did. I loved his sister. She was a bit rough around the edges, but I actually very much liked her. And then he would, like, you know, introduce me to his hometown friends. And some of them were really cool. They really were. Like, some of them were awesome. So on the weekends, it was, you know, a relatively normal thing for us to head back to his hometown because it was maybe like an hour or so away. It wasn't that far. And we'd go and we'd spend some time with his, you know, hometown friends, which was awesome. Like I said, a lot of them I really did like. And then he introduced me to this group of friends he had from like some weird like youth groupie type program. I don't remember what it was. I just know that it was like middle school and high school kids, and it was like run by some organization of some sort for them to, you know, stay out of trouble basically. It was really lacking in the adult supervision department, let me tell you. But there was this girl, and she was like, I think in 8th grade. She was 8th grade or like just going into high school, like just started high school. She clearly had a crush on the guy I was dating at the time. Like there was no question about that. And she did not try and hide it. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but he was at this point almost 19. I am very confident in saying it was inappropriate for her to be sitting on his lap, running her fingers through his hair, and whispering in his ear. But wait, there's more! She was one of those people that was like really big into the vampire thing, and she had a whole big thing with, I'm gonna bite him. And she would sit there and bite on his neck. Right in front of me. I know, you're all saying, my god, you're a freaking idiot. I agree. I know I am. It's okay. You can tell me in the comments that I'm an idiot. It's cool. I totally know. And like I said, this girl's like 13 or 14 years old, and he's almost 19. So clearly this led to some tension between us. I think, you know, for good reason. And I had mentioned how like we used to fight and it was bad because it would escalate so that quickly. It started to get worse, and he started getting far more controlling, which is kind of funny because clearly this man does not actually really want a relationship with me. It got to a point where like I couldn't go do anything with my friends unless he said it was okay. And like this was a regular occurrence. They'd be like, hey, we're all gonna go do this thing. Like even if it was right on the college campus. If he didn't want me to go, I didn't go. Now at this point, I'm hardly ever going to my classes. Because if my class lined up with when he was in class, I would go to it. Outside of that, I just wouldn't go. Like, it was just a really bad relationship. I had a dorm room all to myself, so we spent a lot of time in my dorm. So my best friend heard a lot of the arguments between us. Apparently, the next building over also heard a lot of arguments between us, because he was screaming that loud that even with my door and windows closed, they could still hear him yelling at me in the next building over. What most people don't realize is that he literally was holding me up against a wall, screaming at me, and a lot of times he was yelling at me for the sole reason of I didn't want to comply with his exact wishes. If he wanted me to be in a certain place at a certain time, and I had already made arrangements for something else, and I was like, well, I can't be there at that exact time, it would be a problem, and it would set things off like this. If he wanted to have sex with me, it wasn't an option for me. He would get in my face and scream and yell and pin me against walls, or somehow manage to get me pinned down on the bed, and it was not an option. It completely ruined college for me. This is the first time I've ever spoken about it, just how bad it got. And at one point, I had gotten into an argument with my parents, and I was stuck living with this man in his parents' house because, I mean, he's a college kid. Of course, he doesn't have his own place. And I'm pretty sure they knew what was going on. And there was no help from them. I think they just kind of ignored that their kid was doing this to somebody. And when he finally decided that it was time for the relationship to end, that he was going to move on to somebody else, what he did was he went home without me for the weekend, which, that's fine, that's his choice. He doesn't have to take me with him. But he called me up and was mad at me because I was hanging out with a mutual friend of ours who, like, it was like a minor holiday weekend or something like that. So most of the school was gone, and we were like the only two people that we knew left on campus. So we were spending the whole weekend together, basically. And he had found out from, I guess, somebody else he knew that was on campus that we had been spending basically this whole weekend together. And he called me up and he was arguing with me about it and telling me, like, oh, you can't speak to him ever again, and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, you're friends with him. How is that going to work? So we're on the phone arguing and arguing and arguing. And, I mean, this argument's going nowhere fast. And it's just escalating. And he said something about, like, oh, why don't I just kill myself? And I was like, well, if you're gonna be like that, I have some laundry soap here. Maybe I should just drink it. He turned around and called 911, told him I was in my dorm room trying to kill myself. Because I responded to something stupid he said with something equally stupid. He called 911 and told him I was in my dorm trying to kill myself. Yeah, the school didn't like that. They already had a reputation for having people commit suicide on their property. So they threw me out. Between the issue of him coming into my dorm room and screaming and yelling so loud you could hear it in the next building over, and I was responsible for it because it was my dorm, and that, they were like, nope, you're too much of a liability, peace out. They literally gave me less than freaking 24 hours to pack up and get off the campus. In a snowstorm. Like, they contacted me, said, oh, we have to have a meeting with you at 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that. It was in the morning. And I already knew that this was not going to be a pleasant meeting. And I go down there and they're like, oh, because of the issues with your boyfriend in your dorm, and now the fact that 911 was called on an attempted suicide attempt. And I'm like, dude, I didn't try and commit suicide. I'm like, that they should have never even been called. They're like, well, it doesn't matter. You're too much of a liability and a risk for us to continue having on campus. So, yeah, you can't continue to go to school here. And you need to be moved out of your dorm and off the property by 5 o'clock today. What? By 5 o'clock that day, You're not even giving me 10 hours to pack up and get out. Now, in order to have a car on campus, you had to have like fancy smancy paperwork filled out and special stickers. So, they could look at my paperwork and see, well, she doesn't have a car. They could look at my paperwork and see, she doesn't even live in this state. And then they could have pulled up a map and seen where I live and been like, there's no way somebody's gonna get up here by 5 o'clock to get her. He didn't think anything of it. He was just like, well, whatever, you shouldn't have tried to kill yourself. And I'm like, I didn't try and kill myself. You called 911 and told them I was. So I managed to convince the school to give me a slight extension. That way I could actually get my stuff packed and out. And he basically just used it as an excuse. Literally, I think about 2 months after that, he officially ended the relationship. That was my very first serious relationship. It was awful, clearly. It screwed me up a lot. I'm still kind of messed up from it, but I cannot change the past. Shortly after our relationship ended, apparently he got fat. That's like, because I still had friends that were going to school with him. So they would see him, and I don't know, like, probably like 3 or 4 months after we had split, people started telling me that he got fat. Like, I wasn't asking anything at all about him. They were just, for some reason, people, when I would talk to them, would feel the need to be like, just so you know, if it makes you feel better about that whole thing, he got fat. And I was like, I don't care. Like, he could become a supermodel. It's not gonna change the fact that he did some scummy stuff to me. But that is all I've got today. I will see you guys next week. I promise next week's story will be much happier and fun, as this one was very dark and serious. And stay safe. Don't let anybody control you. And I will see you for a new video. Bye!